The smell of motor oil and hot steel still clung to my uniform when I rolled up after a 12-hour shift. And the second my thumb hit the garage remote, the door rattled open to reveal the one thing. Driveway. Holding my own keys, about to get slapped in cuffs for touching what I paid for and built. So before the sirens even finished echoing down the block in Cedar Glen Estates, Westfield, Illinois. And the answer, I decided while the blue lights skated over my garage wall, was simple. You beat panic with paper, you fight lies with documentation, and you stick to the plan. That's carried my family through 3 generations of hard work and harder days. Because my name is Andre Miller, my grandfather taught my father, and my father taught me, and our shop has been keeping engines alive in this town for 60 years. That fastback wasn't some midlife bandage. It was a resurrection I bought as a $3,000 rust-pitted corpse at an estate sale, and for a year and a half every spare minute I had went into stripping the frame, rebuilding the 351 small block, refreshing the Turbo 400, rewiring harnesses, measuring tolerances like a prayer, and logging every step. For insurance in a binder thicker than a church Bible. So when Officer Riley and his partner Officer Morgan walked up with hands relaxed but eyes alert, I was already pulling out my phone to show the photo roll, bare metal shell on jack stands, primer haze and sanding blocks, first fire of the new build with headers crackling, my knuckles scraped raw and grinning like I'd won the lottery. Then the VIN plate, and then the laminated title that matched my name and my address. Meanwhile, Melanie Grant shoved glossy dealership printouts with no VIN, no bill of sale, and a story about a wire transfer processing. And when Riley asked for proof that wasn't a screenshot, she claimed the dealer hadn't sent it yet. And I could see it on his face, the difference between someone who knows a machine soul and someone who only knows how to talk over people. So he warned her about false reports, and they left me where they found me, breathing in hot oil and relief, while she stood inside. Of cheap toner, notice of covenant violation, unauthorized commercial vehicle storage, a $200 fine, and a 48-hour deadline targeting my family van. A clean, well-kept Ford Transit with Miller regulations, so I photocopied the purchase docs, highlighted the effective date in neon like I was teaching a class, and hand-delivered the packet to the property management office while the receptionist's eyes widened as if she'd just seen a lightning strike with my name on it. 2 more notices appeared the next day. Alleged oil stains, there were none. Industrial odors, apparently. WD 40 now counts as a felony. And after-hours mechanical noise. My garage shuts down at 9, same as the ordinance. And that's when I swapped frustration for countermeasures. For 4K security. Cameras, cloud backups, motion zones dialed so tight they could spot a moth shadow at midnight. The very first dawn run caught Melanie Grant stalking our shared fence line with a collapsible yardstick and a phone, measuring like a TV detective. And that afternoon, she tried something bolder, an emergency board meeting, with 3 hours' notice in the community room where only 3 faces waited. Melanie at the head like a traffic cone with a clipboard, her anxious ally Diane chewing her lip, and Paul nodding at anything that sounded like authority. We're implementing an immediate ban on all mechanical activity in garages, she announced, and I scrolled to section 4.3 of the bylaws on my phone and read it aloud. 7 days notice required. Then section 4.7, quorum of 5-4. Something that showed teeth. The next morning, city code enforcement knocked. Anonymous complaint about an unlicensed auto business. And the officer walked into my spotless garage, whistled at the was a chapel, and emailed Melanie Grant a cease and desist for filing false hazard claims, which didn't slow her down as much as make her sloppy. She started a Neighborhood Watch Facebook group, deleted every comment that questioned her, and posted a dog whistle monologue about activities more appropriate for industrial zones, which only fueled a quiet rebellion that reached my porch in the form of Tom Alvarez with coffee and a low voice. Most of us think she's unhinged, Andre. But until now, nobody's had the receipts to stop her. We built a small coalition that afternoon, Tom from. Then the city attorney. And while I kept my routine normal, Sarah Dean pulled public filings and found something that clicked like a torque wrench at spec. 3 vendors paid by our HOA, Glen Property. Home sales, a pattern surfaced ugly and precise. Melanie would bury a target in fines until they listed under market, then slide an investor buyer in fast and collect both commission and gratitude. The number we landed on after 3 pots of coffee and 2 mini spreadsheets was 90 grand in questionable disbursements, and while we gathered notarized statements and polished our timeline, still clinging to the bottles. When the environmental inspector arrived, he lifted one jug like a bored judge, pointed to the fresh label, and explained calmly that new oil in sealed containers isn't a violation and false reports are, which left Melanie sputtering about community standards, while neighbors filmed from their porches. 48 hours later, she upgraded from petty to coalition meeting with a digital recorder and eyes that had decided they were done being afraid, and she pressed play on a jailhouse call where Melanie begged her to retrieve cash hidden behind the in-flight risk in one breath. By the time Lena Brooks aired the story, HOA president accused of embezzlement and harassment. Our community room was packed beyond the fire code, and you could feel false police reports, harassment. The arraignment crowd filled 2 rows, and when the judge set bail, Melanie Grant couldn't post. A strange peace settled over the block like the first cool evening after a long summer. Then came the day that felt like a film finale. Sentencing, oak benches and the creak of shoes and the low hum of county air, and when the clerk called State versus Melanie Grant. And I told Judge Hernandez the truth, that this started with a 911 call about a black man stealing a car in his own garage and spiraled into fines, stalking, vandalism, false claims to insurers, and the city, nails scattered across my driveway, a GPS tracker found beneath my work truck, and finally the theft of our dues through shell companies registered to her home. I said she hadn't just who sold under pressure. Sarah Dean walked the court through the clean paper trail. Linda Reyes described explaining all of this to teenagers who now understood why adults have to stand up. And Melanie's lawyer ran a tired play: stress, divorce, mental health. And the judge listened like a scientist, taking notes before closing the folder and pronouncing what felt as inevitable as gravity. For years in state prison, restitution of $112,000, 5 years probation, permanent loss of her real estate license. People didn't cheer, they exhaled, and outside the courthouse Lena Brooks asked me what I'd tell homeowners dealing with HOA abuse, and I told her exactly what my grandfather would have said: document everything, build community, and let the truth drive. And that clip became a banner quoted by neighborhoods I'd never heard of. 6 months later, Cedar Glen Estates felt like the place it advertised. The smell of barbecue instead of panic, Saturday mowers and kids on bikes. A community garden where we used to park suspicion, and a board led by Tom Alvarez and Sarah Dean posting monthly reports, requiring photo evidence for notices, publishing meeting agendas a week ahead like sunlight on purpose. Property values rose 15%, not in spite of the scandal, but because future buyers saw exactly what we learned. The best neighborhood isn't the one that never faces trouble, it's the one that knows how to confront it. Every household received restitution checks, and someone mounted a small brass plaque at the community center beside a framed photo of the car that started the war, and the plaque reads, with more humor than bitterness, "Justice, restored, 2025, and yes, it sits next to the 1968 Mustang Fastback, which I do still drive to shows on Sundays, where kids lean in and ask about valve lash and timing lights and how you know when something broken is worth fixing. As for me, I started spending one evening a week on Zooms with neighborhoods from states I've never visited, walking them through the same playbook: cameras, timelines, affidavits, audits, media, patience, because the truth is systems don't rot in a day, and they don't heal in one either. And the win that matters most is the ordinary kind. Saying hi at the mailbox without your shoulders tightening. Watching a delivery driver pause to toss a tennis ball for a golden retriever. Seeing porch lights click on because someone's bringing a casserole and not a clipboard. So here's the part where I turn the wrench over to you. Was what we did justice or revenge? And where do you draw that line when power gets used like a weapon? When someone calls the cops on a neighbor for daring to open his own garage, should the answer be empathy, evidence, or both? If you've lived through your own HOA mess, what would you have done differently? And if you're in one right now, what evidence do you need to start collecting today? Drop your take in the comments. Argue it out. Tell me what I got wrong and what we got right. Share the moment you decided enough was enough. because neighborhoods get better when everyday people stop whispering and start talking. And if this story lit a spark, pass it on so the next Andre Miller and the next street full of decent folks can swap fear for a plan, and a plan for something better.